Good evening and welcome. Welcome to my live stream. I'm Bob Pace, your host, and here we are to fight CPS and stop taking our children. That's right, we're fighting CPS. Now, I do want to tell you that not all CPS is bad, but there's enough of them around that have hurt me, firsthand experience, and over 1,000 people that have either texted or called in from around the world, including the United States, of course. Now, this is broadcast live, and it's an interactive live stream, meaning that you can interact by text and messages, by sending emojis, by checking to see if you can follow me, and also to check to see if you want to be notified. You can also call in to my phone number when I put it up, and also you can be a guest on my live stream. You can be a guest on my live stream. Now, excuse me. I hope you had a beautiful Sunday wherever you are. And I hope that you come to me to get help. Because fighting CPS is a horrible, horrible challenge, a horrible, horrible thing. Because there's so many entities that are corrupt. And it's really, really hard to see your family is torn apart. Some of you may be going through the most horrible times. Some of you must be going through the most horrible times. Because when you have CPS in your life, and it's the bad ones, the rogue, what I call the rogue, it can give you all kinds of heartaches, all kinds of tragedies. Your children are taken away from you. Your family's broken up. And worse comes to worse, you don't have the funds to hire a professional attorney. Now, good evening, Gina Renke. Welcome. Welcome to my room. I'm glad you found me. You found me on Facebook, I assume, fighting CPS. And there are actually 7 rooms of Facebook that channel people to my YouTube channel here. Now, I use StreamYard application to broadcast this live from California, from my home. And you're welcome, Gina. I don't know if you've seen my live stream before or been following me for some time, but I'm glad to meet you, and I want to help you with your case. Now, since I said this is interactive, one thing you can do is type a message. Text me a message about a comment about CPS or a question about CPS. What all I ask from you is to show your first name, your city or county, and your state, and if you're from one of my 21 countries, your country. And then also try to be complete with your CPS case. Now, when I say countries, I've had Indonesia that have texted in. I've had Bangladesh and India. Then I've had the Middle East with Libya and Saudi Arabia. Then I've had Africa with Rwanda, Sudan, Liberia, and Mozambique. And then, of course, several of the provinces in South Africa. Then up to Europe, England, Scotland, Wales, and Denmark and Sweden. Then across the pond in North America, I've had 4 provinces in Canada, all 50 states, and including the District of Columbia. I've had Mexico, and then I've had in South America, I've had Grenada. Then across the South Pacific, I've had New Zealand, and then down under, I've had 2 states in Australia. So that's well diverse. The common thing all these 21 countries have, and all 50 states and the District of Columbia, is they have a very troubled CPS case, meaning most of them are experiencing financial difficulties. I too had lost my job, and losing my job was a hard thing to swallow. I was 60 years old at that time. That was over 15 years ago. And when you lose a job, it's hard. It really is hard. Now, Gina is talking some, and let's see what Gina has to say. Yeah, I agree. I was hoping that when they're investigating social services, they would investigate CPS. I think they will. I think they will. Because one of the areas the government's losing a lot of money is in CPS. Um, the corruption in CPS is phenomenal. Money is given to these entities with just a simple question for money. The states will ask the federal government, we need $100,000 or we need $1,000,000. No questions asked. They're not transparent. No one is controlling or watchdogging that money. And what the states do, they do the same thing to the federal government. They give the money to the county. Anytime a case is open, a county has to contact the state and get a number and get funds on behalf of that child. And in my case, it was Orange County, California. The entity there was called the Child Protection Services. And they were getting $20,000 per child per month from the state. That's $60,000 for 3 children. I had 3 of my 6 children. I've helped raise 6 of them. 3 of them are my older ones. They have families themselves. Luckily, they weren't living at home when my children were trafficking into foster care. They weren't in trouble. You see, CPS, and I'm going to call CPS the Child Protection Systems. It's systems in every county, every state, and every country. They all have different names, and it's too hard to sit there and give 25, 35, 45 names. I mean, next door to Orange County is LA County, and they call their CPS system the Department of Family and Children's Services. In Prescott, Arizona, it's Department of Children's Services. In Kentucky, in Richmond, Kentucky, it's called the Cabinet. So when I say CPS, I mean all child protection systems. That's what I mean. Now, let's see what else Bristol Welty had to say. I wish you would tell me where you're from, Bristol. Yes, it's all about money. I agree with you, Gina. I agree with you. Now we have a new person called Bristol Welty. That was Gina first. Now, Bristol, what are the signs of someone in CPS being involved in trafficking? Currently dealing with the situation, need to verify the person we're dealing with for real. Well, Bristol, and I hope that you can tell me where you're from. That would be great, you and Gina. But signs of CPS is when you know your children aren't in danger and they ask you, we need to take your child. Of course, you don't know the law. The law is you not surrender your child unless it's a court order. A warrant is out for that child. You don't allow them in your home. You don't answer the door. And if you encounter them in the yard or outside in the vicinity, you just be very courteous to them and say, I cannot talk to you right now. This is a legal matter, and I need my attorney present. And so you may not have an attorney, but gives you time to get one or to think about how to defend yourself, because CPS is reckless. Not all CPS are, but there's quite a few of them, and it's hard to weed out the good from the bad. Now, a sign that they're reckless or the bad thing is when they don't have what's called the steps in investigating children that supposedly there are allegations for neglect or abuse. Now, child protection system was created by social services that got a mandate from Congress to protect our children from neglect and abuse. So they created it. So they are, one of you reported Doge looking at it. Doge is looking at social services. And I'm pretty sure when they get in and see it's $1 trillion business, they're going to say, wait a minute, why are they using $1 trillion? Where is that money being spent? Who's in charge? Where are the directors? Where are they? So it will take time because they've been corrupt for so long. Just like all the other government agencies, there's a lot of corruption. I know firsthand dealing how bad CPS. I know how bad social services is. And I know how bad the IRS is. It's all about money. Money, money, money. And it isn't coming to you. It's going into the social worker hands in form of a incentive, a bonus. My social worker was gloating about how much money they gave her for keeping my children in foster care. They want to traffic. They're allowed to traffic, which is against the law. If they immediately take your child and put them in foster care, then you know it's a corrupt CPS system. The child protection system is corrupt because they're supposed to make all efforts possible to put it with a family member. But if they put it with a family member, they get no money. So that's why they want to go into foster care. If they put them with a family member, they get no money. So the signs is when they immediately want to put them in foster care, when they immediately want to take from you and they're not in danger. Now, a parent may have a hiccup. You may be on drugs or taking drugs. That can be cured. You may be an alcoholic. That can be cured. You may be going through domestic violence, and that can be cured. Now, danger to children is when the children are endangered. If domestic violence has gotten a hand and they're physically fighting and the children are caught up in it, that's a danger. The child will be taken. Now, believe me, verbal domestic violence is bad on a child. When a child sees their parents arguing and fighting with each other, it sends a wrong kind of message. If you're going to argue or you disagree with your spouse or your partner or whatever relationship you have, you need to say, time out, just like in a football game. Let's walk away and regroup. You know, football has one of the greatest ways of doing timeouts. I love it. They call a timeout, the players get in a huddle, and they discuss what's going bad, what's going wrong. Like a good example of a timeout would be if Trump and Zelensky stood up and said, I'm sorry, we need a timeout. Instead, they kept going and going and digging and digging and digging, and they both walked away embarrassed. They both walked away embarrassed. They embarrassed the nation with us seeing how they handle. Instead, they should have had a timeout. They should have had a timeout. Anytime you have a disagreement with somebody, have a timeout. I know it's hard. I know feelings or emotions. You're at work. You're arguing with your boss. It's only going to get worse. You just say, look, we disagree. We need a timeout. I'll get back to you. I'll take a walk. There's nothing wrong with saying that. And if you're the one that has to eat crow, then do so. Zelensky could have told Trump, I'm sorry, this is getting too heated. I'm going to take a timeout. Then they could have gone off to different parts of the White House and talked with their advisors and regroup and maybe salvage something that could have been done with him. But instead, it got worse. Names were called, people were called, and it was bad. It was really, really, really bad. Because the kind of president that Donald Trump is, he is a very aggressive president. He's a very strong president, and he does not tolerate. He does not tolerate. Anyway, we're not here to talk about politics. We're here to talk about CPS, and CPS will be investigated, and they will stop. Right now, I know in Richmond, Kentucky, there's $1 million that the government is questioned the Richmond CPS system there. Where did the money go? They've now located one social worker that's embezzled $400,000. There's more to follow. There's still $600,000. So we are investigating. It will be investigated there. Does that help you, Bristol Willie? Okay. Bristol Wiley lives in Southern California by the border. The border, we don't have a border. We did have a border at one time when we told people that coming into the country, they either had to have a passport or apply for citizenship if they wanted to come. And if they were a visitor, they would have a visa. But instead, we had an administration that went amok for 4 years and allowed millions and millions of people that resulted in all kinds of things happening. I really question the outbreak of measles. It didn't come from somebody from outside of the United States. We had the measles eradicated. We had a lot of things eradicated. The COVID was something new, and I'm not surprised if that did not come in the way of the border. You know, there's a lot of things that we have to look at. So by the border, there is no border right now. Now, Trump will stop. He will put a stop to it, where people got to show a passport to get into this country or a visa, and visas are not going to give it out readily, or an application to become. And if your application, you do it in your country. You don't sit there and hang out at the border. You don't expect us to take care of you with social services being depleted to provide you food and welfare and clothing and assistance and education and medical and giving you free schools. I mean, it goes on how much we spend on people that are non-citizens. In fact, it was to the point where I sometimes question, why not renounce our U.S. citizenship, go to another country, and then reapply to the United States as a citizen? That's how it would have been good when we had the past administration. But anyway, we moved on from that. But I can imagine the cartel have a field day with abusing our children. Children are abused. We do need an organization to protect our children. But that's what we need, is protection, not abuse. CPS abuses. They traffic, they alienate. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. Over 1,000 entities, I would say, because that's how many people I've talked to in 17 months. I've been doing this since October 23, twice a day. I'm on at 10 o'clock in the morning and again at 7 o'clock at night. Those are West Coast times in California. That's the Pacific Standard Time, PST. On the weekends, I come on at 8 o'clock on Saturday and Sunday. That's where I deviate. Those are exceptions. During the week, sometimes I do move my time around because I have family events that come up and I need time with my family. But I've been doing this twice a day, 14 times a week, month after month, year after year. And I've not missed a day yet. Now, Gina says her grandson, so she's a grandparent, was taken under false accusations given to a foster family with 12 kids. Well, that's another thing. Not all foster families are good. Not all foster family. It's just like CPS. There are bad foster people out there. Now, there's good ones. I have one that regularly visits my room named Betty Joe from Montana, and she's a really good foster mom. She took a child in that lost his parents on a Friday a month ago to a car accident. And she took care of that little boy until he's being adopted by family. And she was a good foster parent. But there are foster parents that abuse and mistreat our children. And if a foster family has 12 kids, that's way too much to take care of. A dozen kids, that takes a lot of income. So we have Bristol that lives in Southern California. We have Gina. I don't know where Gina lives. She's the first one that came on tonight. And I'd like her to identify where she might live. Now we have Grace. Um, that name, Grace, is very familiar because our show producer is Grace. Um, and thank you for calling in, Grace. I think you're a different Grace than my show producer. But anyway, they do persecute families and children. And thank you, Grace. Where are you from, too? I'd like to know where you're from, Grace. Now, Gina is in Oklahoma. Okay. Um, Glad to meet you from Oklahoma, Gina. And 600 per month for a child. Now, um, that is cheap. I don't know if Oklahoma is making much money there, but we in Southern California, the social services there, the CPS system, the child protection system in Orange County gets $20,000 per child per month. I know it firsthand, and they had 3 of my children, so that was $60,000 a month. Now, Gina from Oklahoma further says, any recourse if no warrant, just a threat to bring in the police. Let me tell you something. The police have nothing to do with CPS except protect them. And they would do criminal matters. Doing neglect or abuse of your children is a criminal matter, but something the police lets the CPS handles. They let the CPS. The police are interested in crimes, crimes like stealing, killing, even fighting, about that kind of thing there. But they are not a branch of CPS. CPS uses them as intimidators. So again, just like social services, the CPS, they can't come to your home, either can police. Your home is your castle. And it's about time you know your Constitution and civil rights. If you don't remember talking about them when you're in high school, you need to revisit again. Everybody in high school takes a class, a semester in U.S. government to learn about the 3 branches, or they used to. I can't say it's exclusively, but when I was in high school, we talked about the 3 branches: the executive, the judiciary, the Congress, the ones that run the government and how they perform. We also took state government, California state government. And there's also a semester of U.S. history. Every high school in California does so. Every high school in Virginia does so. I cannot speak about the other states. I think Rhode Island does so. But anyway, you have to understand, the police are to serve and protect. That's right. They're supposed to serve and protect. They're not supposed to take the children. They have to have a warrant to enter your home. They have to have a court-ordered warrant signed by a judge, and a proper warrant. And when I have more time, I'll talk about a proper warrant, because I've talked to it before. Yes, neglect and abuse is different. Neglect means you're not feeding the child, you're not bathing the child, you're not having the clothes on the child, you're not taking them to school. By law, every child must go to school. Must go to school. Now, as far as abuse could be hitting the child with a wire or cord or some type of harmful welts on the body, punch a kid, drop a kid, throw a kid against the wall, rattle a young infant's brain so they jottle in their head. That is physical abuse. And there are 2 types of reporters. There's the mandated reporters, which are the people that are required by law to recognize abuse or neglect and know how to report it. They're like your policeman, your fireman, your nurse, your doctor, your caregiver, your teacher, your principal, your counselor, your administrator. Anybody that deals with children is mandated to report neglect or abuse. and there's a procedure they must follow. Now, the sad part about abuse or neglect, when the reports come in, the CPS system has to recognize that you're guilty until you're proven innocent. So if a mandated reporter says, hey, we see this little boy with bruises all over his body, well, they right away think you did the bruises. They didn't know that maybe the child got hurt playing a sport or tripped or fell. So right away, you're guilty. But they're supposed to investigate it by having a doctor look at the child. And that doctor should be your doctor, your child's doctor. Your pediatrician should x-ray examine the child. They're going to want to use their doctors, their people, and their people aren't qualified to know what a bruise is or something like that. I mean, discoloration of the skin, yes. But these mandated reporters call it in. And 75% of the time, it's true. There's over 1,000 children a day that go unreported, that need to be reported. We have over 500,000 children being investigated. 500,000 children right now across the country. And it's sad because there are abusive parents, men and women, both of them. A little infant who's only a couple months old, the parent gets irritated with the child because he screams and he shakes the child, or he throws the child against the wall and the head doesn't have the protection. That parent is being very abusive to that child. That parent needs to be investigated and corrective action needs to be taken. And yes, the child would be taken from the parent's home. There's no question about that. But if you are being investigated by a second kind of individual, which are, I call the lay people that call in, they're your relatives, family and friends, your neighbors, acquaintances, those kinds of people, they also can call in. The problem being is they're not trained. And 50% of the time, they're wrong. They're used as retaliation. They don't like the neighbor's yard growing on their yard. They don't like the neighbor's dog barking. Or they mishear something or misunderstood something. And right away, they want to retaliate. And they'll call in a false report. The problem with all this reporting, whether it's mandated or by a layperson reported, there's no name given. There's no signing in writing what happened. I think you need to have it in writing and signed by your name with a phone number so that if it's found to be false, they can be investigated and sued, because it's a serious offense to lie. And right now, you're going to find many CPS agencies lie also. They're not transparent. They're not transparent. Now, I missed some of the comments here. I need to go back. Now, we know Gina's from Oklahoma, and we know that we don't know where Grace is from. Well, we know that Bristol is from Southern California. Your course is, Gina, is to be courteous to the police, to say you need to have your attorney present, because right now it's a legal matter. Anytime you're involved, it's your constitutional right to have an attorney present through all phases of the legal matter. So that's one way to get rid of the police. Now, I know that, Gina, you love being a nana, a grandparent. So because I was staying in a luxury hotel, 2 workers said fine. The third one said unacceptable. I have no idea why they care about where a grandparent stays. Grandparents do have rights. In fact, there's a book out. And let me take down that message so you can see the number. That number, 888-888-6582, is where you can get guides and books. And there's one new guide called the Grandparent Guide to Steps into Adopting Your Grandchildren or Seeing Your Grandchildren. It's set up for California, but it's good in any state. It's good for parents as well as grandparents. Because grandparents have a right. Grandparents have a right. Now, Gina says the hearing is on a week. Any advice to tell the judge? Well, hopefully you have an attorney that you hired. And since I'm talking about attorney, rule number 1 is you must have an attorney. And I'm talking about a real attorney. Too many people are sucked in to use court-appointed attorneys or public defenders. They are not schooled in juvenile law, family law, or dependency law. They are not schooled in how to fight CPS, and they won't fight CPS because they're hired by CPS. They're young attorneys, fairly new, and they only have a criminal law background. And they will not fight for your case. They won't even talk to you. They are so loaded with cases, 30 or more, they don't have time, and they won't fight. They'll look for the easy way out. So you need to get an attorney, and you need to start off by getting quotes from 3 attorneys. Now, one attorney I have his name is Vincent W. Davis. And Vincent W. Davis has been fighting CPS for 39 years. He is fully professional, licensed, and trained in the area of juvenile law, family law, and dependency law. He's also a trial attorney. He once was a foster child himself, so he knows the foster system. Not only is he able to get your children back by fighting CPS, when your case is closed, he can do a civil lawsuit in the area, either in the state or the federal level, and win back money. He's won millions of dollars for people's civil rights or constitutional rights were violated. He's won millions of dollars. And so he's one attorney you should talk to. And the way you can talk to him right now, if you want to talk to him for free, is to call in on my number and talk on the show, and you'll get a free 15-minute consultation with Mr. Davis. It's a private Zoom meeting. Or if you are a guest on my podcast and you on the show, you get also a free 15-minute consultation. So whether you're a guest or call in, you can get a free 15-minute. I will put those 2 things up for you in a little bit there. I just thought, since we're talking about an attorney and how to get an attorney, it's very important. Now, when you call the other 2 attorneys, it's very important. My rule number 4 talks about using the internet to learn about CPS. But it's very important that you phrase your words correctly. You start off with the city, the state, and if you're from outside the country, you put the country. Then you follow with the letters CPS. That's going to bring up thousands of CPS matters. If you want to be more specific, then you can put down how to file a 388 motion. What is the Indian Child Welfare Act of 1978? What is a 160 hearing? How do I make an appeal at the state level? How do I complain about attorney, a judge? You can do that. So that's the format. My rule number 4 is to format your search engine right. And you use your search engine. You start off with the city, the state, and the country, and the letters CPS. Now, if your city is a small city, I suggest you use a secondary city, like Athens, Georgia, Atlanta. So it's Athens, Atlanta, Georgia, CPS. So you're going to look for an attorney. After the word CPS, you put down a juvenile law, family law, dependency law, attorney, a CPS attorney. And when you print that, you're going to get a bunch of names. And so what you do is you look at them and look at some that look like potential to call them. Then you now got to narrow by talking to them. And you need 2 important questions to ask. your first question is to ask, are you a professional licensed juvenile family dependency attorney who has fought CPS and gotten children back? If the answer to that question is yes, the next question is, after your case is closed, have you ever filed a civil lawsuit against CPS and won money back for them? If the answer is yes, that tells you have a pit bull of an attorney who will fight for you. Then you need to meet with that attorney and talk about his references. You need to see 3 references on that attorney. You need to see if the chemistry is right. Now, Vincent, you can meet with him for free. And if you want more time than 15 minutes, let's say you want 30, I have negotiated a special price with Vincent Davis for $60 for 30 minutes. For $60 for 30 minutes. And he will talk to you. He will help you. He will help you. And he'll talk to you for free. And you can ask anything you want in those 30 minutes. And it's only $60. So you have a free 15-minute or $60 30 minutes. All you have to do is go to that website at the bottom of my page, put your credit card number in, and sign up for a 30-minute consultation. And if you're interested in contacting him right now and hiring him, you can call the number again, the same number for getting guides and books, 888-888-6582. That's the law offices of Vincent Davis. And by the way, my phone number is live. You can call in during this show at 626-698-0990. And my phone will answer your call. It will answer your call. Now, I want to catch up with some of the things that are said in the room. What kind of a hearing, Gina, are you having so I can give you some advice? Is that your first hearing, your second hearing, your 6-month hearing? What is that hearing about? Also, you need to use an attorney to talk to the judge. If you're pro se and you're representing yourself, you can talk to the judge. But if you got a public defender, you're stuck. You can't say anything in court. If you got a real attorney, you can talk to your attorney and tell him, and he'll tell you what to do. Now, good evening, Margaret. Margaret is from Missouri, and hospitals can lie about drug tests. I know they can. The problem is you want to go to hospitals that are part of your medical plan that you've been going to. And welcome, Margaret. It's good to see you again. We have some new people tonight. We have a person from Oklahoma and a person from Southern California. And we have Grace. And I don't think that's our Grace. I think that's another Grace. And we have Grace on the show. I have no idea where she's from, but I'm glad to see her there. Now, Margaret says hospitals are involved in the corruption of kidnapping children. That's called medical trafficking. That's my number 3, the second part of my number 3. There's medical trafficking going on at urgent care and hospital emergency room. There are social workers that work for CPS that work in the hospital also. They hear something and they'll try to take your child. Again, they must have a warrant. No one can take your child unless you give them permission or they're in extreme danger, meaning that violence is going against them, or they have a warrant. Otherwise, you hang on to your children. You have them stop taking your children. Get to know the laws. Now, welcome, Kay Diamond Rock. You were on this morning, I think it was. So I saw a video where CPS took single mom kids because she homeschooled them and didn't have legal custody of her kids. Well, CPS will take them because it's a money thing. I have no idea. Now, Kid Diamond Rock, I forgot where you're from. If you could tell me where you're from, that'd be great. I don't know if you're the one that talked about homeschooling before, because I remember talking to a parent that was having trouble with CPS and the school board, and they were doing homeschooling. There's nothing wrong with homeschooling. If you want to homeschool your child, you need to contact the district you live in, the school district, and you ask them for the parameters of how to do homeschooling. Do everything in writing, lay out a written plan, and you're fine with doing your homeschooling. Now, I want to welcome Robin Taylor. You're new, so welcome. Um, okay. She's from Texas. Great. Welcome, Robin from Texas. She has a court appointed attorney, held no contempt for not drug testing, no order to appear, only 3-day notice. Order wasn't filed until the day after the non-compliance confinement, 7 days. Abuse of discretion. Well, yeah, I think in Texas you probably do there. First of all, your mistake is having a court appointed attorney. Now, again, I talk about rule number 1. I know it's hard. I had to sell my house, quick sell my house to get Mr. Davis. I lost my job. I had my life savings. My life savings lasted for a long time. It lasted for 7 years. I'd put away that much money, but I had heavy mortgage payments to handle for 7 years. And I had the biggest payment I had to make out was my attorney because I wanted my boys back. So I quick sold my home and sold it for what I paid for. It was a sad state of affairs to sell your home less than what you pay for. And that was a lot of money I lost. I lost a tremendous amount of money. Yes, you're the one in Maryland, and you were talking about the homeschooling. Now remember, K Diamond, and welcome back. Now, I have about 9 minutes left, which means that I have to end my podcast at 8 o'clock tonight. Now, my number is still up. You can call me at 626-698-0990. Now, in this room, I hope you're taking notes, and I hope you can ask questions. And if you ask questions, all you do is text a message, a comment, or a question about CPS. All I ask you is to show your first name, your city or county, and your state. And then all about your case will be more than helpful. Another way to interact in this live stream is to be a guest on my podcast. And to be a guest on my podcast, you'd email my show producer, Grace, at vincentwdavis.com. Grace at vincentwdavis.com. And she'll give you a link to StreamYard. They'll get you on. And the link is good for the showtime. And you could be a guest and talk. I can take up 9 of you. The benefit, she will give you the link and tell you what you can do on the show. The benefit of being a guest or calling in is that you get a free 15-minute consultation, if you like, with Mr. Davis, who is the attorney I talked about in the very beginning. He is a pit bull of attorney. He knows how to fight. He fights in other states. He has a case in Oklahoma, a case in Missouri. He goes all over. You know, he works out of Arcadia. He has cases in Orange County, LA County, San Bernardino, Riverside County. He has a county in Northern California, Kern County, Shasta County. So he'll work. He wants to help. He wants to help. Now, please show me emojis like thumbs up, smiley faces, hearts, send me stars. That'd be great. If you want to follow me, check below. And then if you want to know when I'm on, check the notification. You'll be notified. So now we got Kid Diamond Rock, who was on from yesterday from Maryland, who had a problem with homeschooling. Do you have to file for custody of your own child, although I gave it birth? Yeah, you'll have to reapply. If you gave up your child at birth, Kay Diamond Rock from Maryland, you're going to have to a custody, uh, get guardianship of your child. When you have a child at birth and you give them up for adoption, that is usually permanent. If something happens to the adoption, you could put a request in for guardianship. When the child turns 18, they could come back to the parent. But once you give a child up, they're gone. My wife had an unfortunate experience of having a child through no fault of her own. And she gave up the child for birth because of the wrong time in her life. That child later at life came back to when he was in his 20s and wanted to know his real mom. So he became part of our family. He's a very successful child now in life. He has a family of his own. Oh, I misread your comment there, Kay. You said uh, you said, do you have to get filed for custody of your own child? Although I gave birth, I thought you gave him up for adoption. No, you don't have to get custody if you give him at birth. If the child's been taken from you and your termination or parental rights have been taken away, you have to reapply. No, I never gave up my kids. I'm saying people are saying parents have to file custody. Um, I'm sorry, my screen is jumping around. Our parents have to file custody of their own kids. No, that's only if they give up their child at birth or they're adopted out. And by the way, you shouldn't let parents direct you of how to fight your kids. You should get an attorney. Now, I'm a loving father. I've raised 6 kids myself. I have 42 years of marriage experience, but I'm not an attorney. But I've been fighting CPS for 15 years, and I've learned a lot from Vincent W. Davis. And what I share with you is things that worked for him. But your attorney is the one that should direct you. Your attorney, not family, friends, not even mine. I give you advice. I give you advice. I talk about my 5 rules. Get an attorney. Document everything. Say no to police and social workers. Don't let them in your home. Watch out for medical trafficking when you're treating your child or having a baby in the hospital. Don't give up your child. And then, of course, 4 is how to word your search in the internet and spend 60, 80 hours. And rule 5 is to make copies of all important documents, birth certificates, yours and your children, grade reports of your children, shot records, your marriage license, your driver's license, and your social security cards for your kids, all that. Make copies, put in a folder, and keep with your notebook. Those are my 5 rules, and I've talked to him a lot of times in more depth on other live chats. So Kay is saying, if not, they say they belong to the state. That's not true. Children you give birth to at the time of birth, you request a birth certificate listing the father and the mother on the birth certificate. Before you leave that room, you make sure those documents are with you and the social security card that's given for your child. You make sure. There's no way that you have to get a guardianship of a child you haven't lost custody of. If parents are saying they have to do it, they belong to the state, that means that parents' parental rights have been taken from them. They no longer have rights to their children. That's what they mean. I know you're a single mom, and that's one of the worst things to be in there because that father should be helping you financially and being a part of that child's life. Being a part of that child's life. And I'm so sorry because I admire you. I admire you that you are doing that in Maryland, raising a child by yourself. That is a hard thing to do. And if you have to use a court appointed attorney, make him work for you. All you have to do is tell him that you have to do your job or that you will sue him for negligence, and you report him to the bar at the capital of Maryland. Now, I do have to, I know the father's not there, and I'm so sorry. He should be. Oh, okay. He would help. All right. Well, maybe what's happened to the father? Did he die or get incarcerated? What happened to the father, Kay? What happened? What happened to the father? Um, anyway, my time's up. I've run over 8 o'clock, and I do have to go, but that doesn't mean I won't be around. I come on again tomorrow, Monday, at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's on the west coast of California. I'll be again on tomorrow night. So it's 14 times a week I'm on. So I'm never that far away if you have a question about your case coming up or how I could help you. He was incarcerated. Well, that is tough. That is tough. And unfortunately, bad things happen in life. But there is a window and opportunity. As soon as he serves his time and he gets off with good behavior, he can be reunited with the family. It will come back together with you. And as they say, um, don't give up fighting for your kids. I want to thank you all for listening. God bless every one of you. I care about you. I'm here. I'm here twice a day. So I can help you with comfort or talk about anything about CPS. So God bless you all. And this is thank you to Kay Diamond from Maryland for talking to me. Thank you, Robin from Texas. Thank you, Margaret from St. Louis, Missouri. Thank you, Gina from Oklahoma. Um, and thank you, Grace. I don't know where you're from, but Grace, but thank you for calling in. And thank you, Bristol, who first started off on the show. Thank you all, Gina and Bristol, for calling in. So this is Bob Pace telling you good night.